In this video, I'd like to show you my favorite method of making half square triangles. I have a little chart available on my website where it shows you exactly how to cut your squares for this. But the rule is for half square triangles is that you want to cut your two squares, the two different colors, 1 inch larger than the finished size of the half square triangle it's supposed to be. So you can adjust this to any pattern. Now, as you might know, I like to save some steps and be efficient when I am making anything in quilting. So I eliminate steps that normally are maybe in patterns if I know that if it's not going to matter in the end result. So here I have two squares that I'm going to make half square triangles, and many methods tell you to layer the squares. You draw a line corner to corner, and then you have to sew a 1/4 inch from each side, cut it apart, press. But for me, to get the most accurate pieces, I eliminate 3 steps here. So I eliminate having to draw, and then I also eliminate the sewing accurately on each side. This is why we cut our squares just a tad bit larger. And then I use my mini ruler. So this is my Stripology Mini, and I am using the white dotted lines that go out to the edges here. I'm aligning it with the bottom, and therefore I'm aligning the outermost slit corner to corner, so I can just cut these guys apart. So they're layered right sides together, and I can cut them apart right then and there. Take them to my sewing machine. Reason why I lined it up on the slit is because if I just cut it on the edge of a ruler, there's always the chance that you go off. This way, I'm using the last slit so I can place my cutter in the slit and safely cut them apart, and the ruler will hold them both in place. Now, if you're left-handed, you have the same lines on the other side, so you can line up the other side if that makes more sense for you. So now I have my units layered, and I just want to take them straight to my sewing machine and sew. So here's the other step I eliminate, is I don't really have to watch my seam allowance that closely for sewing these together. Yes, I'm sewing together a bias edge, but it really doesn't matter because we're going to square these up in the end. So once they have been sewn together, and now I'm just going to press them, so you will end up with 2 half square triangles, and then you press them towards the dark. And so I also don't have to worry about any distortion when you press, because that sometimes happens. So after you went through all the work of cutting accurate pieces, drawing, sewing on each side, and then pressing, sometimes the pressing will distort your pieces. But you don't have to worry about it because now it's time to square these up. So I cut these at 3.5 inches because they're going to be 2.5 inches in the end. So I am squaring them to 3 inches actually. So for whole inch sizes on triangles, you are going to use the black lines on the ruler. So you have 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have the lines going out here. You have a diagonal line going through the center. So I would be using this black line, 3-inch square, and then a diagonal black line on the seam. And then I just want to make 2 cuts through the 0 and 3. So squaring up to 3, that means the finished size will be 2.5. So I'm just going to show you without using my ruler stickers. Normally I mark my ruler out, but this is easy because it's just from the bottom corner. Now then I turn my square, and now I have this side and this side already trimmed. And so now I know I can align the diagonal line, align the top and the bottom line, and I end up with a perfect half square triangle. And so I limited a bunch of steps, saved myself some time, but I end up with a perfect half square triangle. Now, if you're doing a 1/2 inch increment, you're going to use the white squares. So we have from the center expanding out white squares. So even though this is larger, I'm just going to sew this one or trim this one to a 2.5. So we have that innermost circle here. Whenever I do that, I always want to use my arrow stickers. So first, before I start trimming, because obviously I'm sometimes trimming a lot of them, I like to put my arrow stickers on the corners of the square I'm going to be trimming to. So I have this little square, 2.5 inches. So I place my ruler stickers so they're pointing at those diagonal lines, so it makes it a lot quicker to find those lines. And then I also make sure to put a different color sticker on the actual slits I'm going to be cutting through. And you find that by just bringing your fingers down. It's the 2 inch and the 4.5. So grab a different color. Those are going to be the slits that I'm cutting through. And so that is really going to eliminate any mistakes when I'm doing my trimming, however many half square triangle units you want to do. Now, of course, if you were cutting your original squares based on making a 2.5 inch trimmed square, which makes a 2 inch finished, you would probably cut this smaller, but I just wanted to show you. So aligning that line on the diagonal, the white line, and you'll see that all 4 corners of my square are on the inside. Again, make my 2 cuts and then turn my unit, find that diagonal white line again, line it up with my seam, and now I also have lines on the top and bottom to align with my cut edges, and then make the same cuts through the same slits. And then I have my perfect half square triangle.